we're fighting a lot of little fights, and none of them that we started, right? So many queer people just want to live their life. Not so many, all of them. We just want to live our lives.
Let me live.
Yeah.
Just let me live. We didn't start the fight. We have to fight the fight, or else I'm going to see trans siblings and people I love suffer.
We don't need to wait for people to change their hearts, but we're going to step up and enforce our legal rights here.
When you talk to the people and you see them realize, I think this is wrong, why is this being done to me? It's like, oh no, it is wrong. And also there's people who are fighting for me and I have a path through this. That look on people's faces, I don't know.
There are so many people that need defending and people that need legal protection right now. And I want to be one of those people who can provide that.
If you've ever wondered how legal advocacy becomes a form of protection, how identity and community care intersect with policy, or how we build safer futures for our LGBTQ plus people, then this episode's for you. And today, I am glad to be joined by Anthony and Becca. We have our El Presidente and a board member.
I wrote that. That was good.
Yeah, I do what I can out here, you know, trying to play my part. But no, thank you guys for joining us. You guys are representing QLaw Foundation. We've had the pleasure of being a partner in production and amplifying voices for these last several years. And we always look for ways that we can give back and kind of intersect and talk about. I was telling you guys off camera that we also help out with the Northwest Film Forum. So we've had QLaw come and be our organization that we have these youth and young people that are learning about production. Like, well, wouldn't it be cool if we actually had a real story to tell? And then at the flip side, we have this organization that can use this content and look to do that. And I think at the base of it, like, that's what community is. Like, if we have something that can be helpful for you and vice versa, where are these intersections and things of that nature? And I think for me, Mike, my understanding of QLaw is kind of what that is. Like, you have these awesome advocates and these great legal minds, and it's like, hey, we have needs, like, let's come together and see how we can support our community. But yeah, if you guys want to just introduce yourselves and kind of like give people some info about the org.
Yeah. I'm Anthony Canape. I'm the acting board president. Well, not I am the board president. I'm acting, I'm sitting, I'm singing, I'm dancing, but I am the board president. I've been in this role for about a year and it's been amazing. I haven't been on the board of QLaw for that long. It's been about 2 years. And I've learned so much just about legal advocacy. I've learned so much about its place in community. I've learned so much about this system and this mystery of what the legal system is. And it's so mystified, and we have to just pull that away and get rid of that veil. So I've loved being a part of it and taking part, and I'm really stoked that you have us here.
Excellent.
Yeah. And I'm Becca Human. I am the most recent, I think, board member of QLaw. I just started less than a year ago. I'm an attorney and I work here in Seattle. And it's been awesome being a part of QLaw. It feels like a really cool intersection, like you just said, between legal services and more of a community-based advocacy approach. So we have people on our board who are attorneys like me, and then there are also people like Anthony who are more in like the fundraising nonprofit space. And we all come together and work together to figure out what the best approach is for providing direct legal services to queer and trans people here in Seattle and across Washington, actually. Yeah. So
yeah, no, I remember sitting in one of your guys' presentations. Like, yeah, we just got done from Olympia, and we were over in Eastern Washington doing a clinic. And like, oh, yeah, you guys is out here putting in the work, and love to see and hear that, because sometimes organizations kind of play the lip service, or they talk about the stuff that they do, and sometimes they're just kind of the face getting the money and then kind of pass that on. But it's like, no, these people are out here doing the work, and that's awesome to hear and see. Then I'd like to start with all of our episodes is kind of what got you guys to this couch. If you have your earliest memory of Elite Collective and our intersection, sometimes it's like, hey, Sean Watt told us to come down, and that's why we're here. But yeah, just always like to hear what got you guys here.
Yeah, I think funny enough, when you were saying that we reached so far, that's what got me here, is that this staff at QLaw reaches so far and they do so much, and they're all my superheroes. It's really like a staff of 4 people, and then we have some people who contract as well alongside that, but it's a core 4 people, and they just really reach throughout the entire state of Washington to make stuff happen. And I'm lucky to be really good friends with one of them, who is Sean Waugh. and I came to one of the Falltaculars in 2023. And so working with them and QLaw is how I kind of got into the system. And then when I first encountered Elite Collective is when y'all were doing our Falltacular.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, the Falltaculars are our annual fundraiser that we do a huge production. We have performers, we have speeches, we have games and raffles, and it's a fundraising extravaganza. And so that was also, I think, my first interaction with you all, because it takes an army to put on a production like that. It takes like everything, catering, tech, AV, like the whole event system requires a lot of work to put into it. And our Falltaculars are really fun. Like, I think
they're so fun.
It's a great.
I feel like you guys aren't doing it justice. Like, it's a party. Like, it's like one of those things, like when we go and support, and every year has a different theme. But like every year, it's like, this is everyone's like year event. Like, we've been looking forward to this. I have an outfit for this.
Oh yeah,
like the
outfits are amazing.
Like, you guys come through and represent, and it's so true to who you guys always are with the performers and everything. It's like, I love like the authenticity of it, right? Like these are people's authentic voices. These are people's living their authentic selves. There's so much joy that's there, and to see community be in community and be able to do their thing is awesome. And it's always when we ever get the phone calls, like, I don't know what it's gonna be. I know it's gonna be fun. The food's gonna be good. There's gonna be a photo booth, and we're there. It's always a fun one to support for sure.
And I'm a fundraiser, so I go to a lot of these because it's like a part of it is me just trying to keep up on my job and like what people in the city are doing. So I go to a lot of galas, luncheons. I go to a lot of these like things, and QLaw, our Falltacular is the only one I really look forward to. And I plan my own, and I have to be honest, like QLaw's Falltacular is the one where I'm like, I want to show up, I want to show out. It's going to be fun. We get to also give awards to our volunteers because our volunteers work so hard. And it's like, it's beautiful. Yeah, it's really
I agree.
Filled with warmth and community.
I would say joyful is a perfect word for how that feels, which is special when things aren't always that easy for the people who are in the room. But you get everyone together, you get to celebrate, you get to embrace everyone's unique individual identities, and it just feels comfortable and really exciting. So I went to a Falltacular before I joined the board, and it just made me feel really excited about this organization and really interested in learning more and figuring out how I could plug in to be a part of it.
Well, that's awesome. And it's a good segue, just kind of talking about one, like that joy. And what I look at it also is like, it feels like it's one of those things to allow folks to be poured into, because so many people are doing so much work. They're pouring into community, things of that nature. But sometimes you need that joy that allows you to kind of recharge, right? And allows you to kind of prepare for, all right, let's get back to this work. Let's weather this next storm and see what's going on, because the world is always throwing us curveballs and all the things. But I wanted to kind of start off with what got you, what called you into legal advocacy?
And I can start with my story. So when I was in college when Trump was elected as president the first time around.
Sorry.
And thank you. I remember that being a huge turning point for me. I was in college. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do once I graduated. I was torn between pursuing more of like an artistic path and then potentially going to law school and doing something else. And when that happened, I remember how I felt so powerless. I just felt like there's so much work that needs to happen. There are so many people that need defending and people that need legal protection right now. And I want to be one of those people who can provide that. I want to be in a place where I feel like I can actually go join the fight in a direct and meaningful way. And so that was kind of the moment for me that I decided to go to law school, which is not an uncommon story. Like, actually in the legal world, it's sort of known that there's like a surge of people who did exactly what I did. It's being a lawyer, your path can go in a lot of different directions, but that core of why I decided to be a lawyer in the first place is something that I always try to protect. It feels so important. Otherwise, you just get lost. Like, there are so many ways to be an attorney, and not everyone is going to work for the ACLU, right? Like, not everyone is going to be in the trenches like that. But even if you're a lawyer, like I work in a big law firm, there are other lawyers who are in private practice and represent all sorts of different clients. There's always a way to find a way to plug into community effort. And QLaw is one of the ways that I try to really plug into that because it's so important to me. I'm queer. I've been a part of the queer community, for how do I put a year on that? But like forever, right? For my entire like adult life, it's been so important to me. So I want to be part of an effort to represent and protect people in my community. And so that was why I got plugged into QLaw when I moved here. And along with like my pro bono practice at my law firm, I just try to do as much as I can of showing up for people in the community. Because otherwise, you just want to make an impact with the degree and the power that you do have. So yeah, that's my story, how I got here.
I love that. When it resonates to me, it's like that quote of like, if not me, then who? Right?
Yeah,
and
right.
It's like if everyone does that, then everyone's plugged in and everyone's participating. And we're always just look like, oh, someone else will do it, then nobody does it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like you can't depend on the next person. So that's awesome. And when you were saying it, like it totally makes sense of I'm sure there's a surge. Yeah, we getting into this because this is crazy and we need some folks on the other side to help balance this out. And then I wanted to lean in with you in terms of what do you think about the communities that QLaw serves, right? When we think about that and what values like kind of anchor, the leadership and kind of like the ethos of QLaw and then how you try to play your part within the org.
Yeah. I think the communities that QLaw serves for such a long time, it's been like the community that feels like it's just up on the chopping block, right? Like trans people make up the smallest population of people. That's just a fact. But for some reason, they're in the media every day. Everyone wants to know what trans people are doing. Everyone wants to control what trans people are doing. And it's like, that's not going to, I don't know, make grocery prices cheaper. That's not going to change the fact that like police are shooting people. Like there's just all these things that it's not going to change. But it's so focused on because people always need a scapegoat, right? And for a very long time, going back to, even before the AIDS crisis, but there's just so many points in history we can point to the fact that our communities have been the scapegoat, right? And I think that part of what really drew me to QLaw is realizing, I went through conversion therapy when I was in high school. It was a telehealth conversion therapy and all the way up through freshman year of college. And it stopped because Colorado passed a law outlawing conversion therapy, and the telehealth conversion therapy that I was in Colorado. So I just got like this easy out where I no longer had to make these phone calls and deal with this person who was kind of making me live in shame. And there's a lot deeper to go into that. But for the sake of easiness, it just realizing that like, oh, this one law in another state completely changed a huge part of my life and a huge thing that like had been like a real big hardship for me in my life. That is what like illuminated me personally to the power of like the law. And when I was meeting with QLaw and like figuring out who these folks are, because like I said, I came to a Faultacular, I knew Shanwa who works there. Shanwa had been pestering me for months. Join the board, Anthony, join the board, come on the board. And I was like, I don't have time. I literally, that's what my excuse was. Yeah. Because I had just left a board. I was on a different board and it had taken a lot of time and a lot of effort. I thought I don't have time. But then I met with some folks and the authenticity, the connection to community, the like constant core idea that the self-determination and the ability for queer people to have their own representation within the law, that was at the forefront every single moment. And so yeah, that little like that freshman me who a law in another state changed my life and allowed me to escape this shame. Like, I don't know, it felt like that little babe, they reignited and they came up and were like, yeah, I can do this and I can step up. And since then, it has just felt like QLaw, they're just so connected to community. Like I said, I'm a fundraiser. I've been in nonprofits for 7 years professionally, a lot more non-professionally. And so I've met a lot of nonprofit workers. And I think that nonprofits sometimes miss what the community really is looking for. And they miss the ability to stay plugged into the community. QLaw's never missed that. Not once. They're just so there for people. They're there to listen. I volunteered at like booths where we're just telling people like, hey, here's QLaw. Come to, if you need like any questions answered, if you need legal aid, come to this like that we're doing here in a few days. And they're telling me their whole story. And I'm there and I'm like, I'm not a lawyer, I can't help you. But just me being there and like listening to them, being connected to them, treating them like this person who matters, because they do matter. Like that is so magical to see like how that lifts people's spirit and makes them continue fighting and makes them not give up and say, oh, this legal thing is too hard.
That is such a true point. I think it's, when I think about the LGBT community specifically, and you look at the past 10, 20 years, like the LGBT community specifically is a community that has seen so much progress achieved through the legal system, where it's always the goal eventually to have social, cultural acceptance and to change like people's hearts, right? But there's almost been this shift where it's like, actually, we don't need to wait for people to change their hearts. That could happen over time, but we're going to step up and enforce our legal rights here, right? And the reality is that even in a shifting political climate, there are laws in place that protect queer and trans people, especially in a state like Washington, that if you don't have someone helping you understand or navigate those laws, it can feel completely overwhelming. It can just feel like this is a system that is built, that is stacked against me, and there's no way for me to access the help that I need. But the reality is that there is a way to use the legal system to support our identities and to support our communities, and that all you need is someone to help you figure it out, you know? And that's like a skill that a lawyer can bring to the table that is really powerful. You know, it's a really exciting intersection between legal work and queer identity that I think is really powerful. Yeah.
And when you see people, like when you talk to the people and you see them realize I have a path out of this, it's not just, oh, I think this is wrong. Why is this being done to me? It's like, oh no, it is wrong. And also there's people who are fighting for me and I have a path through this. That look on people's faces. I don't know. Totally. You can't just like when people feel like they have their own power back.
Yeah.
That's what I think really ignites like a lot of the people who work at QLaw is helping. Like, yes, we are happy to be the people to step up, but the way in which we do it, the way in which we tell people that you have power here, you have rights. How do we help you live in your power and your truth and your self-determination so that it's not just that you have to keep coming back to us, but now you know, oh, I have a lawyer contact on my phone. I can go and talk to them.
Yeah.
I know that like I have protections. There are people out here fighting for me. I don't have to stand for this. I don't have to take this. I don't know. That's just like unbeatable watching people get that in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. What you said earlier resonated in terms of, change people's hearts, right? Because a lot of it is, and one of my things that just doesn't make sense to me is like why people's interest is so high for something that has nothing to do with them or any effect on them. Jay-Z had a great line of what you eat don't make me shit. And then we just apply that across the board. It's like, why do you care?
Yeah.
But I love what you said with like, we can go about these laws right now and you can change your heart whenever you want on your own time or never, but it has nothing to do with me and it shouldn't have anything to do with me. So we go by this law that needs to get passed. We can have those protections in place. And that's real. It's like, so sometimes you'll never be able to change people's hearts or minds, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have basic human rights like that should be afforded to all of us that we call we the people, right? So yeah, no, I love that you made that point because it's like, yes, that, and again, to many, it's like, yeah, that makes total sense. But to some folks, it doesn't, but it's like, that's all right. We're not here to change your mind anyways, but you're going to go by this law though, is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, they stay so focused. I think part of it is that it feels like it's something they can affect and change, right? Like sometimes thinking about the like systemic issues of the world gets really big and messy and muddy. But then when you're thinking like, oh, like, but I just can tell them to not be gay. I can tell them to not be trans. Like they shouldn't do that. That's messed up and immoral. It's this esoteric thing, right? That it's like, there's no limits on it. You don't have to like sit down and actually work through it and wade through it and get into it. And some people really love living in that esoteric and saying like, I want to shape this. I want to shape the heart of humanity and I want to shape people's like psyche. And I'm like, that's all good, but like, you're not going to stop me. Like, I've tried. I've literally tried at this point to not be gay and it's failed. Okay. So
yeah.
Here we are.
So here we are.
And like, just to say one more thing, I grew up in Nebraska, so the queer community that I came up in was a community that was really defined by exclusion. It was like,
Mm,
no one around us is cool with this. We're together and we end up together because we're the people that are there to protect each other, to keep each other safe. And the only people in this context that we can be fully expressive with and actually like let that part of us breathe in a context that has been so repressive. And because of that, my experience has always been one of the queer community being a refuge from
mhm,
persecution. Like it's been really beautiful and exciting to live in cities where there's a lot more social acceptance.
mhm,
You don't get homophobic slurs in the street, right? Like you don't have one gay bar in the entire state. Like there are options, there are places.
mhm,
But when tides turn and public opinion shifts more negatively, the feeling I always have is like, okay, yeah, like what else is new? Like this
mhm,
has been the status quo for decades. There are always people who have that perspective. And I just come back to where I feel like my roots in the community are, which is like, all right, like that's fine. We know how to protect each other and we know how to show up for each other. And I don't need to wait for you to accept this. I'm
mhm.
going to go ahead and do what I need to do to protect like myself and my friends. So it's I'm kind of realizing now that maybe that sounds pretty combative, but hey, when you're a lawyer, that is the you are combative. You are asserting your rights to certain actions. I'm going to get married. I'm going to change my name. And that was the other thing I
Mhm.
thought about when you talked about like the fear that people have with the legal system and just like not knowing that it can be used to help you. Even like the littlest things that can really improve somebody's life can be really scary. Like I
Mhm.
remember one of my closest friends wanted to change their name because they're non-binary. They wanted to go by a different name. And so all that requires really is just filing a form with the court.
Mhm.
And yet, it was like a really scary, overwhelming experience for them. Just all these questions they don't know how to answer. They're like, so do I have to go? Like, what if I fill out something wrong? Am I going to get like in trouble? Like, I'm going to get like a penalty for saying the wrong thing, right? Or there's like a reference to a statute and they're like, I don't even know what these letters and numbers mean. Like, I don't know where
Mhm.
to go with this. And just to be the person who can go look up that law and be like, here's what it says. Let me put it for you in plain language. And let me tell you, like the judge is not going to grill you. Like the judge is not going to ask you why you want to change your name, most likely. Like you probably don't even need to give a justification. You can just say, whatever. So those answers are things that it's actually very easy for me to do that. And it takes such a huge load off their mind.
Mhm.
And when they successfully did it, like it was such like a beautiful, meaningful moment. And so it felt really special to be a part of that. And also, again, like another thing about you can make differences like that, even on just a small scale. You don't have to be the person who's prosecuting the case in front of the Supreme Court for gay marriage or whatever it is in order to have a really meaningful difference in people's lives on a smaller scale. I love QLaw for that reason. It's so much of that kind of unglamorous, but really personally deeply meaningful work that
Yeah. Yeah.
volunteers are doing. It's
Yeah,
not
no,
it's not
no,
always
for
so
sure. Mhm.
flashy.
That was one
And
of the first. Oh, sorry to cut you off
no,
real
you're
quick,
good.
but on that, that was like one of the first things that I saw, like the direct effect. And it was a thing of the name change and how important it was for folks that are like, hey, part of this whole thing that I've been going through is like this final part of like, I need this to be me. Like I
Mhm.
need this name, and like you said, it can be scary. It can be all the things, right? And it's like to have that friend, that partner, that support that you might not have at home or whatever your scenario is, you have it in Q Law.
Mhm.
And like that was a thing that came up often in terms of needing a name change. And it was like, oh yeah, like you said, it's easy for the lawyer to do. And it's such a light lift, but then it's so impactful on the other side. It's like you're just depositing this little bit and you get to see this
Yeah.
huge explosion on the other
Yeah.
side of like, okay, that's return on investment
I
right
was just
there.
about to say, Red, like talk about return on investment. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah.
That was my 2 cents from just seeing it from afar.
No, yeah, for sure. And I think that it's interesting you mentioned also like that those words maybe sound combative and there's so many little things we can do, but it feels like we're fighting a lot of little fights and none of them that we started, right? Like, I think that so many queer people just want to live their life. Not so many, all of them. We just want to live our lives, right? That's what we want to do.
Just let me live.
Yeah.
Just let me live. And like, why does my name matter so much to you? Why are you fighting that? Why are you putting so much energy into this? And, you know, if we didn't start the fight, we have to fight the fight to live. Like, we literally have to fight the fight, or else I'm going to see like trans siblings and people I love like suffer. And I'm like, so no, I'm going to take up that battle. We're going to fight that fight. And like, it feels so impactful to be the people in Washington that feels like, yeah, you know, we're fighting the fight. You can come to us.
No, I love that. That kind of leads into my you guys are answering all my questions without me even asking. But one of them was like, what are some of the most meaningful impacts you've seen at QLaw? And each of you might have like your own story. I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, I mean, I talk a lot about this story. I've already talked a little bit about just seeing and listening to people, but that was really it. We went to this market. It was in December. You know, Trump has been elected. We know what's coming, and there was a trans resource fair that was being held at Queer Bar, and we go there and we're tabling. And I think that when they asked me that it's just going to be a chill tabling night, I'm probably going to speak to 2 people. Not true. There was so many people. They lied. There were so many people. It was what I had in my head. I was like, oh, it's just going to be a few people and it's going to be really easy. And there were so many people just coming through. And a bunch of other orgs were there. And all of them, these other orgs are like big orgs like ACLU of Washington, Utopia Washington, all these people who we love. And please support these other orgs. They're fantastic. But there's like these folks who are coming up and they're saying, hey, I have a question about my name change. I really want to get it done before like Trump is in office. And hey, I want to like get my gender marker on my passport. Or hey, I don't know where to go for this. And all of those other orgs had to point to QLaw's table and say, you want to talk to them. And they came to our table and I'm having them walk away with like 3 resources. I'm giving them a website. I'm giving them a date to come to a thing. That tangibility, right? Like not just that these big orgs are doing incredible, impactful work and we need it to happen. But on a micro scale, we talk about micro and macro a lot in movement work and a lot in liberation work. In a micro scale, the person who's just like sitting here saying like, hey, I'm a trans person in Washington, and it's really cool that the ACLU of Washington is suing the like Trump administration. How am I gonna like change my passport today? How am I gonna like change my name today? Because I need this so that I can actually further in my transition. Because people can still medically transition, you can still access these rights, but to do that, they also need help in a legal sense of facing on healthcare companies that want to deny claims because they think that the Trump administration is here and they can just do that now, even though they can't, right? Like all of those questions, watching those people be able to turn and come to our table and immediately walk away with a path forward. That was the single most impactful thing, is giving people that immediate path forward.
Oh, I love that instant like peace of mind. Like they came in there with some trouble on their heart and it's like, okay, we don't know if this is the answer, but at least I have a path forward. Or I have
they were telling me their life stories. Like they were just like unloading on me their whole life stories, and I love to listen. I'm like, you can tell me. Like,
I'm here for the tea.
I'm here for the tea. Tell me what your landlord did. Tell me. But yeah, they're like giving me their whole life story, and I'm realizing I'm like, you just need me to be quiet. You need me to shut up and listen to you in this moment. And like it's that dual thing of like I'm giving you a road forward, and I'm also giving you this idea that like, oh, there's someone here to listen to me, and like that's it. That's most of them. So that happens on like a like almost weekly scale with the clinics, right? They get to talk to a lawyer. In some ways, I'm sure Becca knows lawyers have to be a little bit of therapists at point.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's the most impactful thing for me.
Yeah, I agree with that because, well, especially with cases, actually, it's really funny how often as a lawyer you end up being a therapist. Well, because what people say also is like, you don't talk to a lawyer unless something is going wrong, right? So you talk to people when they're in the deep end and they're facing conflict, they're facing a challenge, they're fighting a battle already. And you just come in as the person who's able to help them fight whatever battle that they're facing in the moment. And so I completely resonate with what you talked about the interplay between these different organizations, because you need the people who are doing the high level, top level challenges to certain policies that are damaging. And you also need people helping on an individual basis. And that work can take time, you know, like part of my practice, also my pro bono practice, is I do a lot of immigration work. And I see that too, where it's like there need to be people out there who are fighting the battles on a high level. And that's really, really important. But then there's also people that need to like file the applications, file the asylum applications, show up in court and represent someone who doesn't even speak English. Like, you need both of those things operating at the same time, or there are going to be a lot of people who are not capable of accessing legal rights that are entitled to them by law. And so I have found it really rewarding to plug in on the direct scale of things, because speaking to an individual person and seeing that it's possible to help them access the legal system, you get something out of it too. It feels great. It feels like I am really able to help someone right now in a way that I wasn't able to do before I was a lawyer. And, for the lawyers in the audience, I really think that's something that we can lose sometimes, especially based on what practice you get in. It can feel like, wow, my job is really sending emails. My job is really like working for businesses. And, it can feel like alienating sometimes. And it's so refreshing to do something for somebody else that can be done achievably and directly. And you see an outcome from it right away. So yeah, I think that's a very special impact that QLaw has.
And I do have to shout out that QLaw, we do also do stuff on like a larger scale.
It's true, yeah.
There's a whole advocacy arm of what we do, where we go to Olympia, we form coalitions, we oppose laws, we try to like sponsor our own bills. So I mean, we have that as well. And the fact that we can do both, again, 4 employees, y'all. I think we're talking about law, and I want to highlight, I've only talked about 4 employees. That's wild. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of effort, and they knock it out of the park every time.
Yeah, I will say for 4 employees, that's a hell of an ROI as well.
It's
so
amazing.
if you're in the giving mood, this is an org that you'll definitely get a return on. You guys had talked a little bit about some of the systemic things. I wanted to give some space for you guys to speak into this. But what systemic barriers show up most often? And then how does QLaw work to disrupt them? Because I feel like that's one thing that you guys do well, is like, we're going to come in here and be heard. We're going to disrupt this noise and make sure that we're heard. We might not be able to change a lot today, but we're going to work on, like you said, those coalitions and these different things. But just kind of wanted to talk and to allow some space for you guys to talk about that some more.
Like Anthony just said, we absolutely have that larger scale work going on, coalition building to try to change. There are so many things in the law that you just don't even think would be exclusionary until they start getting used in an exclusionary way. Like, yeah, exactly. Especially anything to do with family law. It can just so easily, anything gendered in family law, things like adoption, things like marriage, like those things get so easily turned against queer folks because there is gendered language being used in the law, or whatever it is that can be really used systemically against people. And so I think it's important that we're doing that work in Olympia and doing that advocacy on a larger scale. The other thing that comes to mind when you ask that question for me is just the fact that, like, for a lot of communities, I feel that the systemic barrier ends up being money, right? Like, it costs money. It costs money to hire a lawyer. And that right there is the ultimate systemic barrier. It's just like, if you're in a community that doesn't have access to a lot of wealth, it instantly becomes so much harder to see any legal progress or change. So I think the fact that we offer these free legal clinics where we're doing work for people without that high cost barrier it's just one of those fundamental things that we're working on to reduce that kind of load on people, right? Because I think that when you're part of that marginalized community, it is a lot easier to just struggle with money and to find the funds to hire someone to help you with those things.
I think money is a huge one. Money is a huge one. I think even to this day, it's a little hard because some people think like, oh, like the community is really accepted. Like queer and trans folks are really accepted. They can get jobs anywhere. They can have access to money. And that is still not always true. Like there are still like queer and trans people that get kicked out of their home and that end up like trying to just like fend for themselves because they're trying to express who they are. And I think that like this idea of access to wealth, especially on a generational scale, when you have people who have traditionally made their own families, right? Who have like made families from people that like I have people who I call like my family, and they're like not legally my family. They may never legally be my family. I'm not gonna adopt them. They're not necessarily gonna adopt me. But when like that is the tradition of what queer and trans people do, it makes things a little murky, right? Because now you're like, how do you establish a generational wealth? How do you like establish communal wealth on a large scale? How do you pass that on? So there's always going to be a little bit of that disparity until that gets figured out of like who has access to money in that way. And then I also think mostly about like queer and trans people of color are like also facing the fact that like society, I'm undesirable in society because of like my queerness and my transness. I'm also undesirable in society because of like my race, and that immediate compounding factor. I mean, like to this day we still have a hardship with, with even making like police officers accountable for the things that they do that are like go wrong and that are obviously wrong and that are obviously evil. And so they like have to navigate that. Their fear of the legal system comes with the fact that like the legal system has not been there to be on their side traditionally. I think about that a lot. I think about like going into a courtroom and like I think about, okay, like is someone going to believe me in here? Is anyone going to believe? I've not been to a courtroom, but if I do, is anyone going to believe me? Because if you think about generations of what like the legal system has done to people of color and especially BIPOC folks in America, it's like not cute. It's not good. We're looking at a history that has told us that this place is not for you. This power is not for you. I think that trying to get over that barrier and realizing that that is still like a very real thing, that like people need advocates in that regard. That's always going to be there as well. Like those compounding identities are going to be always a hard thing to have to step into the legal system with.
And that's why QLaw is here.
Yeah.
No, I love that. One thing I wanted to dive into next was what doesn't get talked about enough when we discuss about queer and trans rights and legal access.
Good question. Let me think.
What's coming to the top of my mind is what doesn't get talked about enough is that when queer and trans people have rights and access to those rights, it's not just for them. When trans people have access to healthcare and have the ability to determine how their body should be treated in their healthcare system and make decisions for their body, suddenly women have that ability as well, right? It kind of shores up these other rights that people want. So I think about, trans exclusionary feminism and that argument that like women have to protect themselves from trans people because it's going to take away their rights and they're going to stop. And I'm like, it's entirely the opposite, right? Like if a trans person can go in and say that they need this medical system done and our law says the healthcare has to cover it, why would our law not also then be arguable to say that it's going to represent what women's healthcare need? If we are like out here saying that like trans people can change their name if they need to do a name change, and I'm thinking about like recent laws and recent like ideas about telling women that they have to have like the name that's on their birth certificate to be able to vote, right? But we all know the tradition in the United States is you change your name when you get married. So none of those women would have the ability to vote, which is absolutely crazy. But just sitting here and thinking like, okay, if trans people have the right to be represented and vote with the name that they've changed, then suddenly like women also have that right. It's a compounding thing and it blossoms out. So I think that's something that doesn't often get talked about, is that the rights that we get through the law and that we protect through the law protect you.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I plus one everything Anthony said. I agree.
Rest my case.
The defense rests.
Actually,
I am a lawyer now.
Actually.
You play one on TV.
Oh my God. No. No.
And then where do we see the biggest opportunities for system changes?
Planning a milestone birthday, a high-impact gala, or an intimate wedding? At Small Patrol, we don't believe in one-size-fits-all. We provide a range of tailored creative solutions designed to fit the unique energy of your celebration. Ready to book? Click the link in our bio to view our full-service menu and secure your date.
Where do we see the biggest opportunities for system changes? So these are some things that we like to think about in terms of like, you had mentioned earlier where, you can give with time, you can give with funds, you can give with, if you have a specialty like being a lawyer, and, that can be on the micro level, there's the macro level, but just kind of like, where do we see this? We had talked about 25 being kind of a doom and gloom kind of year, but I am hopeful for 26, but just kind of see where you guys see some of those biggest opportunities for system changes.
I feel like whenever something this major happens on a national scale, where there's this person in a federal office that we feel is doing all of these things to impact the way that the country works, it can feel so hopeless. It can feel overpowering because it feels like, what can I do to really go change the federal government right now? There are people who are already in that kind of watchdog fighting position who are doing their thing, but what can I do to prevent Trump from making X, Y, or Z decision? And so whenever that happens, I always feel like the best place to look, the best opportunities come at the state and local level, because the way our country is set up, like, states can make huge changes based on their policies, their laws. And then even on the local level, there can be so many things that happen through local organizations that are so much easier to lean in and to influence things in a positive direction, even if the federal government feels like I know that I feel sometimes like I just need to shut the federal news off sometimes, which, you need to find like a healthy balance with it. But it's easy to get overwhelmed. It's easy to be so overwhelmed by how bad things feel that you just shut down and don't engage entirely. It does feel like a lot of people have leaned out, at least at first, that people were feeling uncertain about how the world was going to shake out. It was not clear how dangerous or safe it might be to take certain actions. And because of that, people might have been donating less. People might have been protesting less, volunteering less, just sort of taking a step back to try to see how the landscape is going to turn out, which is an understandable impulse, but it leaves a lot of need. Like you were saying earlier, like there's just a ton of need right now for people to plug in on more of like a local level. And so I feel like the greatest opportunity for people right now, like even just in time, and like, where am I actually in this national position and state position? Like, how much safety do I have actually? And what can I do to push a little bit harder? Like, I have some friends. I was actually just talking to a really good friend of mine who has done a ton of advocacy work. And she is like a trans immigrant who feels a ton of visibility right now. So her whole thing is like, I don't know if I can keep doing this work. I feel like I'm so at risk. If I keep putting myself on the line, I'm going to be targeted I'm going to be targeted, which is completely reasonable, And so when I hear her talking about that, the feeling that I have is like, as someone who is a citizen, like as someone who is not trans, like as someone who has protection in these ways that we're seeing people targeted right now, I want to step into a more active role. I want to be someone who is pushing harder and putting my face out there, putting my name, co-signing these activities, because I have the most protection, actually. Even though things can feel scary and things can feel threatening, I know that I have the ability to enforce my own legal rights and safety. Does that make sense? So I feel like there's an opportunity for people right now to just like take account of like, what are my actual resources and what are the ways that I actually can step up in this moment to help other people who might need to take a step back for their own safety right now. And that can lead for a lot of new people getting involved, a lot of new people, not to press the donation part. I just think that's an easy thing, right? It's like, if you can donate some extra money right now, like the need is there. Donate it to us or donate it to somebody else. I don't care, donate it to anyone your heart desires. But it does feel like a good opportunity to think about things like that. It's a hard time out here for a lot of these nonprofits that are doing the good work. So yeah.
No, I love that you said that, especially when you were talking about like just the difference between who has like the protection from the system and who feels like they could be endangered, because I mean, time and time again, right? We've seen it throughout history that the folks who are most endangered by the system, who don't have the ability to step back and to say like, I can't fight right now, because for so many of like people who are feeling that and who are in that space, like if they don't fight, their life just falls, like their life falls apart, and like they watch it, the immediate effects. So I really think of like challenge your complacency for folks. Like if you're feeling like you're overwhelmed, if you're finding that like you can't dig into this now, like you said, find that space. I can name a million like local orgs, a bunch of like community efforts that aren't even official orgs that are doing incredible work right now. You know, like get on Instagram, follow like one thread. Like, I don't know, look at Divest SPD, look at like Casey Familia, you know, like there's all of these orgs that will lead you to other like organizations. CID Coalition is a great one. If you want to start somewhere, start at CID Coalition. They cover a lot. They're really awesome. And then from there, you can kind of go out and find, okay, this is the group of people and the group of organizers who are doing work that really resonates with me right now. It's somewhere I can plug in. I can either give my time, I can give my money here. I have some expertise, like legal expertise, to give to them right now. Because across the board, across all fights for liberation, we all need the help. We all need the help. Please just find your way to lean in. And I think that people will feel less overwhelmed. That's what has gotten me through this year, is leaning in, doing things. It feels like when you're kind of confused and you have this giant puzzle, if you just start putting pieces together, if you just start doing things with your hands and really getting in there, and then show up for QLaw. We have a ton of events this month that we're trying to partner with a lot of queer spaces. You know, queer spaces are under attack right now. So it feels really good to have them come alongside us and partner to say that, hey, we're going to support each other. How do we like create an event that kind of brings together both of what we want right now? And how do we kind of support this healthy queer ecosystem in Seattle and throughout all of Washington state?
No, I love that. And it's so true, where it's like, you know, it's a need that is there regardless of, you know, you talked about from when you were in college and deciding to go into law. You know, here we are years later and in a similar scenario. But I would suspect that regardless of who's in office, there's going to be needs there, just because we're just not where we need to be from a legal standpoint, to include all folks, you know, in this, we the people. And with that need that is just ever present, it's like, all right, the community has that need. So in order to support the community, it's the time, it's the monetary giving, it's the expertise, but it's like things need to get done, man. You know, advocacy needs to happen. Like you said, you know, lawyering law is not cheap. You know, these four amazing humans also need to be able to have a thriving wage so they can pour into themselves. I want to talk a little bit more about ways that people can give and different things.
Definitely, like, I want to one-up. I wish I had the dates off the top of my head, but I'm sure that we could maybe like
we'll put them in the
direct to our
description
website, the QLaw Foundation website. Like, we have a ton of events coming up that I think are going to be a really great way to continue building like that joyful community feeling. I think we're doing some events at Massive, right? We're doing something at like the Cuff, like these like Capitol Hill, like mainstays that are going to be really fun. I'm really happy that we're doing those events there, because it just feels like so grounded in like the culture here in Seattle. So I'm excited about that. So like, come through. I think that showing up in person to things is a really great way to get connected, because you just make friends. And it's so, you know, like in these days, it's so easy to just watch things through a screen, and then you feel like that sense of powerlessness because you're getting all this information influx through a screen with no real life correlation. You don't like. It's almost like your body gets put into fight or flight mode, and then you have nothing to do with all of that energy that you've just absorbed. I feel like showing up in person is a great way to like release some of that energy. So just from a personal level, it's like a healthy thing to do. Then once you've like met people who are doing the work and you've made friends, you've made connections, like it really helps just go even further with it. You feel more personally connected to the work that people are doing. And then so this is a really funny thing. I don't know if it's going to be effective or not, but it's just something I've been thinking about for myself recently. I grew up in a religious tradition where you're expected to give 10% of your income to charity. And, you know, like, regardless of like the baggage that comes with religious traditions, right? I have always found that to be actually like a really interesting thing to think about, because I know that when I always feel like, well, I donate pretty often. And then I actually look at how much I donate compared to my income. And I'm like, I am nowhere close to 10%. And if I think about how much every paycheck, if I donated 10% of my paycheck to charity, I would be donating a lot more money. So in my own life in the past year, I've started thinking about like, how do I get to a 10% level with charity? And that's not going to be possible for everyone. It's not like, I'm just not trying to impose religious guilt on anyone, certainly here.
You shall tithe.
But do you know what I mean? Like, I know that maybe that's loaded, and so it's not a good thing to talk about, but there's almost a part of me that just feels like, like a lot of people I think were raised in traditions like that. It's like, how do you keep the parts of your tradition that maybe were actually like good and useful? Like giving to charities and giving to like local community organizations, nonprofits that are doing really important work. It's like good hygiene. It's like good personal hygiene to make you feel like you're contributing to community. And so it doesn't have to be 10%, but you could just think about like, where is my giving actually?
Right.
A number that works for you, 100%. And like, I remember also one of our board members at Falltacular challenged the lawyers specifically. Yep. That was crazy. She said something at Falltacular where she was like, lawyers, give what you charge for 2 billable hours. And when I thought about that, I was like, whoa, like, yeah, that would be more than I planned on donating at this moment. But it was a good challenge, because it's like, why not? Lawyers need to give more money, in my personal opinion. Lawyers need to step up a little bit and donate a little bit more. You can, just think about what 2 billable hours would be, okay? Yeah. Just think about it in your head. Then donate less than that, but something closer.
Yeah, and these events that Becca mentioned are part of this greater Stand For campaign that we're doing. So you can go to our Instagram, which is, you can just look up QLaw Foundation of Washington. You'll find our website, you'll find our Instagram.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Information on the Stand For campaign is up there. And the campaign is really built to be like, please give money if you have money to give. Please. We would love the help out as we are like coming to the end of the year. But it's also designed to say that like it's a spreading the word campaign, right? There's a lot of cute like templates and formats that are there and for you to use, and you can say like, I stand for like trans rights, I stand for QLaw, I stand for self-determination, I stand for, there's just like fill in the blank what you stand for. And so part of it is also that like, if maybe all you can give is $5-10, give the $5-10. That's fantastic.
For sure. Totally.
Right now we're all protesting Starbucks. There's way better coffee shops anyway, but while you protest, take that coffee money, give it to a mutual aid fund, give it to an org that you believe in. If it's QLaw, thank you. But then also take the time to spread the word about that org, that mutual aid fund, that like effort in the community. Because part of it is also that it feels like, as someone who has taken time to try and get plugged into these things, sometimes I feel like I see a lot of these like mutual aid efforts and these donation calls in the same silos of people where I'm like, okay, I know that all of my friends have seen it and they have seen it. And I'm like, who else is seeing it? Who's not seeing it? And how do we continue to kind of shout that out and say that like, we're taking a stand for QLaw and we're spreading the word now and getting that out there. So I think that that's a big part of it, because 1,000 people giving $5 is still just as impactful as one person giving $1,000. That's more impactful. That I can do math. But anyway, the point is that the more that we get like that money to more people, and more that organizations are freeing from themselves of this idea that you have to have these big major donors, or you have to have the government. You don't have to be beholden to them anymore. So, that's me getting a little socialist, I guess, on the mic.
That's great.
But like, let's all just start taking it in our hands and putting our money away from some of these things that, like, especially as Christmas time comes, they're gonna, Walmart and Target and Amazon are gonna be banging down your door, coming for every single penny you have. So take it away from them. And this year say like, hey, if you want to get me a Christmas present, donate to this org I believe in. Donate to this mutual aid fund of this person who I know who needs some help. Like, how are ways that we can kind of inspire giving and sharing about this information that spreads it out beyond that?
No, I love that. It's a lot of yes and, right? Where it's like, you don't have to do this or have to do that, but it's do that and try to do this too, right?
And what's one story post on Instagram? That's 4 clicks, right?
Literally. No, I love the stand campaign, just the idea of it pops in my head is, if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for everything, right? And it's like, man, you gotta stand on something, whatever it is that
And the templates
that
are
it
really
is.
cute. They made really good templates.
There you go. They made
Use
it
our
easy for
templates
you.
on Instagram.
Yeah.
You don't even have to do anything. It's a couple clicks and you're good to
I
go.
know, right?
It's true.
Oh no, that's awesome. And then next we're just kind of leading through. We're having some good conversation.
Yeah.
Thanks you guys again for making some time. This is like a whole billable hour, so we do appreciate you being here.
Oh,
and
it's
donating.
a great sacrifice.
But I wanted to hear of what's the next big chapter for QLaw. We talked a little bit about this year, but what do we have coming up and looking forward to? I love a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I would say so. QLaw is in an interesting phase, right? We as a board kind of recently unfolded kind of some of the plans of what other board members had come in and made to look at our future. And we've taken a look at the plans and we had to say, okay, we can't accomplish these things right now. We have to pivot. So how are we kind of reaching towards financial stability? And then once we get from a stability phase into a growth phase, the dream of QLaw is that we're really embedded throughout all of Washington. So another way you can join and give is if you're a person who's interested in being on the board and you don't live in King County, hit us up. If you live on the peninsula, if you live even in Pierce County, if you live just somewhere outside of King County and Seattle metro area, we would love to have like your connection and your ability to help QLaw like show up in that space, because that's really it, is we want to make sure that we're everywhere and that every single person who is a queer trans person in Washington knows that whenever they have a legal issue, QLaw has their back. Who knows that whenever a law is being passed that says it's going to protect children and really it's like some shady law that's going to like basically out a bunch of trans kids, like they know that there's someone fighting against that law and trying to change it. I want every single person in Washington that is a part of our community to have some peace of mind that someone's got their back.
Oh, I love that. That actually led right into my next one is how can people get involved, support, or show up in meaningful ways? And I think also just to tap into that a little bit, I remember being at one of the presentations from you guys, and like we said earlier, Olympia, Tri-Cities, Yakima, Spokane, Pierce County, right? Of Snohomish County, like literally, because queer and trans folks are everywhere. They're, it's not like it's just in the city or whatnot. Like they're everywhere. They're in all our communities, in all our families, extended families, etc. And it's like they should be supported. They should know that they, like you said, that they have someone has their back. So. And a lot of times people think of it as like a QLaw, oh, that's a city thing. Love the work they're doing, but I can't really get involved. But talk about a little bit about that of, ways that people can get involved in meaningful ways and whatnot. I'm not sure, like, is there an open enrollment to become part of the board or to volunteer? Or is like, man, if you got time on Thursday, we will have you.
Yeah, I mean, we're always accepting new board members and new interests. You can literally email, you'll get me. Basically, if you email president@QLawFoundation.org, you'll get me. That email will go straight to my inbox and I'll do my best to say, hey, let's set up an interview. So if you want to be a board member, you can go to our website. There's a form to fill out. There's a form to fill out if you just want to volunteer. If you want to kind of come, especially as we go towards Pride, we try to show up as many Prides as possible. So we always see people
like literally everywhere.
Literally everywhere.
I received that newsletter. Like we were at 37 Prides in the last 3 days.
They're trucking around like, I know, like Rebecca and Shawan and Ronnie are like trucking around, like are tabling things to all these events. And so like we could use volunteers there. If you are a lawyer and you want to volunteer for the legal clinic, it's always open. It's just open enrollment all year round. Hit up the form on our website as well. So I think those are some easy ways I can think of to get involved now, because you don't have to be a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I've never been a lawyer. People think when I say that I'm the president of QLaw, they go, are you a lawyer, Anthony? And I was like, no, actually, like, I was one of those people who was a little scared of the law when I first got this gig. I was like, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a
we need
ways.
everyone. We need lawyers and non-lawyers. If it's only lawyers, then the lawyers just exist in their little bubble, That's the negative, one of the many negative traits of being a lawyer is you just stay in your little legal bubble and you don't get connected to the people who really need the help. So it's across everything. And I agree, we're especially looking for people who are not in Seattle, but hey, we'll take Seattle people too. We'll take everyone. There's space for everybody in the volunteering and the board membership. But I agree that a goal is to get more out into the rural areas. That's close to my heart, again, coming from Nebraska. A lot of the time, it's the people out in the rural areas that need the most help, right? You're the most in need of someone coming in and giving you some options. And so, yeah, but there's tons of opportunities to plug in. And I think you'll find that people are really welcoming, no matter what walk of life you come from. We are all just excited to get to work with these things. So yeah.
Yeah. And now we get to our fun part, our quick fire round.
Oh,
quick questions, quick answers. Or I guess this first one isn't as long, or this might be a little longer. One law or policy you wish more people understood.
Oh boy!
Come on, lawyer.
Just say I'm not a lawyer.
Wait, you'd have to give me a second to think about that one. One law or policy that you wish more people understood. I think I do wish that people knew that name changes are super possible. I think that's probably my answer. If you want to get your name changed, you can do that. It's there. It's waiting for you to pursue that, which is I think it's really great. So yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's just the first thing that comes to mind. In 30 minutes, I promise I'll be like, oh, I should have talked about that. Anyway.
You can comment on the video.
Right, I will. I'll be in the YouTube comments with citations.
I don't know, I just said I wasn't a lawyer, but I actually do have one. It's I think that estate planning and second parent adoption.
That's the answer.
I think because
estate planning.
People don't, especially as queer people don't understand that how important that is. How important it is to know who has law of attorney or power of attorney.
Yeah.
Who has the right of second parent adoption.
And the P word, probate.
Yeah.
Do not want it to go there. Have your stuff in order.
Exactly.
Like what you're talking about earlier with generational wealth. I thought that was such a great point. It's not always going parent to child in the queer community. You have to decide who's going to get exactly. So I would agree with that. That's a great one.
Absolutely.
Look at you. You might be a lawyer yet.
Yeah.
I learned
Come on,
quick.
Anthony.
Right? A leader who shaped your thinking.
This is an easy answer for me because I read their book all the time. Their name is Deshaun L. Harrison. They wrote a book called Belly of the Beast. They were on a podcast called, oh my God, well, I know the subline is Fatties Talk Back, but I can't remember the actual name. But read Belly of the Beast. It talks about desirability and it talks about how anti-fatness is based in anti-blackness, how desirability shapes our entire society. It's mind-blowing. Mind-blowing.
Yeah. For me, I will say Judy Heumann and the disability rights activists who led to the passing of the ADA. I have a disability, and so I'm a part of disability rights advocacy too. That's very important to me. And the way that the disability rights activists in the 70s through the 90s built this cross-cultural thing where they used they used each other's different disabilities to coordinate together so that it's blind people moving people in wheelchairs and people in wheelchairs directing them. That's the image that comes to my mind that I love because it just feels like such a perfect metaphor for what organizing is like in general, where it's you're using your different strengths to help each other, to help push each other forward. So the documentary Crip Camp on Netflix is one of my favorite documentaries of all time. And if you don't know anything about the disability rights movement, it's a beautiful documentary. I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, no, it's literally mind-blowing. Like I mentioned, my wife works at NJP and they do a lot of work with, ableism and all the things. And a lot of it is if you're an able-bodied person, you just don't think about things, right? So for me, it was just my ignorance of not knowing that it wasn't my daily experience, but realizing, wait, there was a time when there wasn't the little ramp at the crosswalks.
Yep.
And just that little thing, it's oh, well, that makes sense. Why isn't that everywhere? But they had to fight for that, that right and accessibility. If we're all paying taxes, why can't I get into this building that is part of the taxpayer dollars?
Yeah.
And things that, again, make sense, but it's until someone fights for it, it's like that. So, that's awesome that you brought that up.
Yeah, and sorry this isn't very lightning round of me, but it's just one of my interests. It's the ADA is one of the most, the ADA is one of the most it's an amazing civil rights law because it not only stopped people from taking a certain action, don't discriminate against certain people, but it required private business owners to actively and proactively make modifications to their buildings in a way that is sort of unprecedented. And so there was a long time where people were just like, it would be way too expensive. Like, we'd have to build a ramp for every building. We'd have to, shave the curb at every stop. And eventually they were just like, yeah, you do have to do that, and you will do that. And it's amazing. And it also makes me think about what we talked about earlier about like what lifts one person up lifts everybody up. Like, I just had a broken ankle recently. We were talking about that earlier. I was benefiting from the disability, the curbs, like everything, because otherwise I would not be able to move myself around this city. So it's just an incredible movement that I think is kind of underappreciated, because now it's just the standard. And so everyone just knows that ADA is everywhere. But that was not the case in the 90s. And it was like a 19, I can't remember. I think it was 1990 that it got passed. But pretty amazing like story that is kind of undertold, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, that brought me right back to the trans thing you're talking about with the healthcare, where like it literally, like, this law helps out everybody now. Because at some point, like, for me growing up, all good, and then 5 years ago I had a baby. Like, oh, this makes it a lot easier for the stroller to go up, and little things like that. So yeah, no,
and especially like when we just went through a mass disabling event like COVID and are still going through, like there's a lot of people ending up with disability more, and like I don't think people understand that like a part of part of the hope is that like you will be disabled at some point in your life. All of us will be at some point in our life.
We're lucky enough to live that long.
Right.
Yeah. It's the one identity group that you can become a part of later in life, right?
And your vision's gonna go, your hearing's gonna go, your mobility is gonna go.
It literally benefits everybody to set up society in a way that you can access things even with that. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I love that. Like, if you take care of the least of us, right, then it's like eventually you're gonna be a part of that group. So while you have your ableness and while you have your privilege or whatnot, is do what you can for those other people, because it's just gonna make life better for.
And if we go one step further and we stop,
go for it.
I think that like there's this idea where we say like when we're taking care of the least of us, but also when we take time to stop seeing them as the least of us, right? When we take time to unpack this idea that like trans people, disabled people are on the margins and we don't need to worry about them so much. But instead, when we are kind of bringing them in and constantly bringing them towards the center, and we are saying and uplifting them in that way, that's when we get the cultural shift that you were talking about. But that's also when like these laws and these systems start to work for just humanity as a whole. And suddenly it's like, oh, great. Everything is better. Everything is better and easier. And it's working with people first in mind.
Yeah, like I agree with that. Thank you for making that point. I definitely wasn't trying to marginalize.
No.
But I love you because bringing that up though, because it's real. Because words, they mean something, right? So you have to again. That's my ignorance of yes. I loved that earlier, where I want the more of the we the people, including all of us, right? And that goes back to that. So it's like I got to check myself sometimes too. So thank you for that.
On a daily basis, I check myself. I'm like, oh gosh.
All right, let's see. A ritual that keeps you grounded, because this work can take you to all types of places, highs, lows, all the things. What keeps you grounded to allow you to continue doing the work? And that could be a nice matcha.
I'm a singer by trade. I'm a singer and composer. Yeah, I came to Seattle because I attended Cornish College of the Arts.
Shout out to Cornish.
Shout out to Cornish. Shout out to now Cornish at Seattle University. Shout out. My alma mater still exists. And so like being in my creative space, singing, songwriting, that's what keeps me grounded.
I love it.
It's like the thing, I feel like some people need to understand that like you can have multiple hobbies, but like have hobbies and have hobbies that feed you creatively, that are the things you need to do to kind of expand your world, that are expansive and creative. So
yeah, I love that.
So could you maybe be performing at the next Falltacular?
If they pay me enough.
Yes,
I'm just kidding. I can't take money for that.
Let's do it. Let's have a board. We should have a board
talent show?
Yes. Time to see now. Get your tickets.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Mine is a little bit different, but this is a sweet ritual that I got from my family growing up. Anytime it was anyone's birthday, or if it was a special day celebrating someone, Mother's Day, or someone graduated, if there was a celebration and we were focused on one person, it was called the Blue Plate Special, because we only had one blue plate in our house. So you got to eat on the blue plate. everyone would go around and say something that they like loved or appreciated about that person. That is a ritual that I have brought into my queer like chosen family as I've gotten
What
older
color's the
because
plate?
Yeah,
we have a blue plate, but we call it the blue plate special. It's lasted, despite the loss of the
holidays, if
symbol.
I know, I was looking for a
The
gift.
symbolic has outlasted
Blue
the
plate.
literal in that way. But I bring that to my friends and we do that together because it feels like something that it feels awkward at first to like look at someone in the eye and be like, I love that you do this or that, but it's actually like a really, really lovely way to, first of all, practice vocalizing like love and appreciation
Like,
for each other.
normalize it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then also like as a person who's receiving it to like hear how other people see you and like receive it and to feel celebrated. Like that's a very cherished ritual of mine. And whenever I'm able to do that for someone else or like have like my little moment, it always feels like, wait, like this actually is who I am with my people. And it gets you out of your own perception of yourself. And it kind of just like, it's very nourishing and encouraging. So whenever I have the opportunity to do that with my friends, I like to do that ritual.
No, I
with
love
them.
that. I hope there's more of that in the world. I mean, and it's scientifical. Like you'll see these things with plants when you speak to them,
yeah.
right? When you pour into plants in a positive way, like you're so beautiful, plant, and you're amazing. They actually grow better versus the negative. When you talk bad to them, like they don't grow as much, and like the music and all the things. So that's a real thing. Pour into your people. I love that. And get a blue plate.
And get a blue plate. Get a blue plate.
I do need to find a blue plate.
There we go. There we
Don't
go.
buy a blue plate because now we gotta all get together and get you one.
It's happening. It's happening. What's one word to describe the LGBTQ community today? And this is going on a T-shirt and a bumper sticker.
I know,
I
right?
have so many thoughts. I would say resilient.
That's a good one. That's such a good one. And to go along with that, I'd say defiant.
That's good too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
So new QLaw T-shirts and bumper stickers.
Resilience
and defiance.
That's another one I'll be in the YouTube comments on.
I
I want resilience, but I
Oh my
also want
God.
something to capture the joyfulness of it too.
Mhm.
It's something we've been talking about this whole time,
Yes,
but I feel
and.
like it's so, like it's survival, but it's also thriving at the same time.
Mhm.
It's like just pouring into the moment and embracing it and being there for your people. That's so much more than just surviving negative things.
Yeah.
So I'll come up with a word that means both resilient and happy in 30
We're about to hit in
minutes.
Webster's dictionary after this. Like, oh
I need
wait.
my thesaurus.
Blue plate. That would be the word.
Thesaurus.com is about to get a lot of hits, a lot of pings.
Yeah.
And then what would be a dream collaboration for QLaw?
The problem is that we have them happen a lot.
Yeah. Like who
So you're
who
saying
is
you're,
like
you're
an
living the dream?
organization that we haven't?
And
I'm sure that there are.
I'm trying to think of like one that we haven't that I'm like, yes, we really need to.
I'm gonna say Beyonce. Beyonce is definitely a dream collaboration.
There you go.
Yeah, a dream collab.
Strong beehive in the QLaw family.
Okay.
Yeah,
of
I mean,
course.
part of me, but like rest in power, Alice Wong, who just passed.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
But I mean, thinking of like living people, there's like, oh, my God, the list goes on. My list is so extensive. I'm such a busybody and trying to find people I would want us to connect with. But I mean, I love like Imani Barbary, who is like a disability activist and who also talks about like what it means to like message your political opinion. Crutches and Spice is their like handle. So if
That's
you're
a great
listening,
pull. Yeah,
Imani,
totally.
hit us. I have no pull like this, but Imani,
Holler.
please holla, come to Washington.
Yeah.
I
That's
would-
a great
yeah.
one. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Totally.
No, excellent. Yeah, that closes out our last little piece. And again, I want to thank you guys for making time, for making space. At the end of every show, we like to give some time. If each of you have a camera over here, if you just want to talk about how folks can connect with you guys, and if there's anything, any closing arguments that you would like to share, but always like to kind of create space. But my objective here was to bring you guys on. We've had a wonderful time working with QLaw over the years, and really believe in the work that you guys do. And you guys being on the board you guys are literally showing up with your time and putting it where it is, and always want to create space and appreciation for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think connect with our Instagram. That is going to be the easiest one. QLawFoundation.org is our website. You can go to QLaw Foundation on Instagram to find us and reach out those ways. If you, like I said, president@QLawFoundation.org is the email. If you want to get in touch directly with me, I will do my best to respond to your email. Some days I get a little bit bogged down, but it's nice that I can have that direct link where people can get to me if you need to.
Excellent.
Yeah. That was a great plug for QLaw. So I'm going to make a little appeal just to any lawyers who might be listening. Like, if you're out there and you know, maybe you do like your pro bono work, but you feel like there could be more that you're doing, don't just let wherever you're working dictate the type of community work that you get to do. Like, get involved, decide how you want to shape your own legal path. This is a really cool way for you to get involved with like direct legal services in a way that's not always possible if you're not looking for those opportunities. So I just want to invite the lawyers who are listening to get involved with what we're doing with our work. And yeah, I hope to see you at some of our events and things.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys again. This is your guy, Carl Shimani. It's another episode of Elite Insights, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.